going to speak from the heart. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to turn it around because then at the eye, where my eye piece will be high instead of low.
Andreas, you're upside down now, though.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, I'll put it back. All right, I'll put it back. I wanted to do that so that I don't look down for it, so I can actually look, but that's good.
Well, we're talking about change and transitions today, right? So that was one.
So we'll do the whole thing upside down.
Right. That would be a good one. Okay, everyone. Welcome again to another day of It's Your Life. Another fabulous, fabulous speaker with us tonight. And thank you so much for joining, for being with us on the call, for spending that time to listen to so many amazing people talk about topics that you might know and you might think differently of, or you might think the same way of. For the ones who are with us for the first time, It's Your Life has been streaming every night since the 1st of April. And I am so blessed to know so many people around the world who are really contributing and who are helping people like you maybe, or other people who to cope with the situation we're all in. So the situation is the following, that we are, a lot of us are isolated, a lot of us are sitting alone at home, a lot of us are confined to the house and cannot go out. And a lot of us are complaining about that. Now, tonight, I have a guest who actually self-isolated himself for many, many months, for 8 months. But he will tell you more about it just in a minute. Andreas Mosaad is with me tonight. Now, Andreas is a psychologist and a hypnotherapist, a clinical hypnotherapist. He's worked with pain patients a lot in a pain clinic, and has also discovered that difference between pain and suffering, you know, between the physical and the emotional. Today, what he wants to talk about is actually that transition, the change, everything. Nothing is permanent in life and everything is changing. And I think what he's going to do tonight with you is walk you through that transition to find that state that the old Tibetans or Buddhists call the Bardo state, that state in between, that state of basically transition. I'm sure Andreas can say it better than I can. But when we are in that state, something magical happens. What? I leave it up to Andreas to tell you. Andreas, I'm so glad that you're with us today. I'm really, really happy. It's a very, very, on one side scientific, but on the other hand, very spiritual topic today. And I am so excited because you have done so much work on yourself, so much self-exploration on yourself, that I'm sure you have tons and tons to say. So welcome today to the show, and please share your story with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Mona, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Well, let's speak about Bardo a little bit. First, we have to understand this term Bardo. It was started by the Tibetan Buddhists. Now, this practice of Bardo is done by the monks, and they do that through their whole lives for that transition, for the time that they die. So you'll find a lot about Bardo is from the Tibetan book of Living and Dying. Now, they practice basically eliminating everything in life that is not them and holding on to the ground of their being. Now, a lot of the change, now this Bardo is actually something according to their concept, is that during death, we have a choice to face the change or to fear it. And so all through life, we want to learn how to not fear this change when we come to it, to remember who we are. Because when we don't remember who we are, according to them, we continue the wheel of suffering. We could go back to the wheel and we continue to suffer and go through another lifetime until we learn that place, who we really are, and we've had the experience. So what I'd like to say about Through meditation, it is actually very easy to see, and even just with self-analysis, it's very easy to see that gap when we're speaking. For instance, when we're speaking, the spot between one word and the other word. Like, for instance, if I said, I am at peace, it's the I, but the I is just what's the doing, and I'm being peaceful at the very end, but it's the am. That am part is where the peace is coming from. And what happens is we mistaken that am for what our mind is thinking. We think of that, of who we are by how our body's feeling. We think of who we are by the pain we're feeling. We think who we are by our relation. Our relation mirrors us, and then we see who we are through the relation. But none of it really, where we are, according to the ground, is we are actually peace. We are actually joy, and we are actually bliss. I'm speaking according to the Buddha. That's how they're looking at it. But what's very interesting about this, it's that joy comes not through adding anything. It's not by adding another car. It's not by adding something that we've learned, adding anything to our minds. It's not by adding muscles and all that. That's not these are additions onto it. Now, these things help us when we're growing in life, how to experience this. These are all great, great assets so that the being can experience. And that being, it's almost like a white sheet. We are that white sheet, and it's all, but then we put all the writing over top of it. And then we get lost in the writing as if they're thinking we're the writing. When we're actually, that's just something we want to experience. We want to experience all the ups and downs, and what brings us away from all of that is the fear of entering into the unknown. So that's what I would like to invite you into, is that, yes, it's completely unknown what we're going into, but what's coming on the other side, there's going to be a lot of positives as well. They're the positive of being grounded, the positive of no matter what happens in the world, what happens to your body, what happens, you're okay. There is absolutely no fear. There's no, if you actually, let's look at this moment, for instance, this moment. Let's just take a deep breath. We've taken a breath, take a breath in. Now, when you're taking your breath, do this again. And this time, I'm going to ground you into your body. So I want you to think about your hands and your feet. So when you breathe in through your hands, and breathe out peace through your hands. Do it 2 more times. Breathe it in. Now we'll know that what we did by doing that, we got back into our bodies. We got more into our bodies than we are into our minds. Our minds are always racing. It's always trying to do something for us. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to give us what we believe we want. So the mind, so we don't want to be there all the time. It's a great tool, but it's not who you are. It's something that is added onto that white sheet. And when that white sheet, you take that off, what are you left with now? Now we've got left with the body. And we're thinking about our body. Now let's try to get a little bit understand how we're in our body now. Now let's try to get into our heart. We are in our body and we're going to go into our heart. So place your hand on your chest. Place them both in your heart. Breathe deeply. And this time just feeling love. Feel the love that comes from your heart. And let your heart speak to you instead of your mind and instead of your body. Let your emotional body come up. Many of us are feeling sad, confused, not knowing what's happening. But in the heart, Really. It doesn't really matter where you are. You close your eyes. Think about it when you're feeling love. What's the first thing that you do? You close your eyes and you go inwards. It's almost like I'm pushing away the body. I'm pushing away the what the mind has to say. I'm not really going into that. I'm going into my heart. This is just another aspect of you. But again, the heart is also not you. The heart is your emotional body. It is something that harbors a lot of this tension that we have. It holds a lot of, how would we say that? It holds a lot of our karma. It holds a lot of what we have done and what's coming towards us. As does the body, as does the mind. They're all kind of programs that allow us to experience the depths, the really real sorrows of this life, because it opens us up. It opens us up to that spirit, what underneath it. It allows us to enjoy life to its fullest. That when we don't have that fear, we can say, whatever comes against us, let's see whatever comes, let's just accept it. And a lot of that, I'm saying this, a lot of the reason for our suffering is coming because we misinterpret it and we believe that's all there is, that's the way it's going to stay, that we're stuck, that this pain is something that's me. It's not. It's not. These are experiences that you want to go through, that your heart, that your soul, it wants to feel things. Because by itself, and you take everything out, really what you're going to find is all there is. All there is in your heart. All there is. Everything else is an addition. But if you really look at what is bothering me right now, I can say that I can't go out. I'm not working. I can't be with the people that I love. There's confusion. I'm afraid for the future. But you know, that ground of being has zero fear of that. It doesn't understand that. From it wants to experience this life as being a human. And that's where I'm coming to, why I think this coronavirus is actually a blessing. It allows us to be human beings. We can be again. How often have we complained there's not enough time to do this, not enough time to do that? How many times have we complained that we're rushed? How many times have we complained there's not enough time to do what we want? We're too busy. We're always bombarded, that the whole world is going on a train towards a wall at full speed and nobody knows what's going on. But here is a place where we can stop. Finally, we have a chance to stop and look. Finally have that chance to, all those neglected things that we've been doing with our relationships because we've been in pain and struggling, that we've been hurting people with because we've been too busy to actually see them as a part of ourselves. These are this time here, just look at the earth itself. It's healing like crazy right now by itself. We're not doing anything. And it's not about doing, it's about non-doing. We fix it by non-doing. And that's the kind of difference I want to show between the world and ourselves, how we are actually a resemblance of that whole world. That when we don't have to do everything to fix ourselves. All we have to do is let go of all the things that we're doing against ourselves. And by itself, that's when health will come. You know, you put something diseased in a healthy environment and it heals. And if you look at some of the virtues of this, they're all what Plato back in his time would call the forms. Those are the things that are eternal. Everything else is not eternal. What did he call eternal? He called eternal truth. So when we're truthful with ourselves, that's where the ground of being is, truth. What else did he call? He called beauty, the beauty of being. what other things he had in there? Truth, being, strength, courage. These are things that love, peace, all of these things, they are eternal aspects. And the wonderful thing that I'm inviting you to is that these eternal aspects that the world kind of forgot all about is now being forced into. They're changing. The world is now forced into a sense of isolation. I would say it's almost like the world itself has a cold. Not just one, the whole world has a cold, and now it needs to rest. Now it needs to also see what it's going to lose. We're going to lose a lot of things in this thing through these changes. We're going to lose a lot. Some things will remain, like our soul, but a lot of this life is also going to remain. Some of the things are going to disappear. Some things will reappear and become stronger. Relationships. When we're busy like that, we are in pain and we're suffering because we're not acknowledging who we are. We're not acknowledging how we feel and how the other person feels. Now we can actually talk to the other person to see how that person feels. And we can see that how our pain, when we were in such a hurry, we hurt them. And that's also what the world is finding out as well. How the world has hurt each other. The world has hurt each other because of self-interest, through just having its eyes on what it thinks it is, and it doesn't realize that that's not who they are at all. The world is the same way. The world is also one country fighting against another over materiality, over dogma, over ideologies, over capitalism, over money. It's like it went upside down. It's like the pyramid. What's really important, we never gave a care for, but everything else we cared about up on top of the pyramid. But what's really important down at the bottom, us human beings, that we have been ignoring. Now what's happening is that this is falling down, and the inside, we're starting to be able to get a chance to look at it like this. You can see that in the world, how there is cooperation now between. We realize that we are a global family. We realize that what happens to one happens to the rest of us. It's like us. I'm going to be laughing. It's like peeing in a pool. You pee in the pool. Everybody's going to notice it. Eventually, at first, no, you won't notice it. But after, eventually, they're going to say, we're quarantining this pool. Everybody out. There's a microcosm and a macrocosm, and they seem to reflect one another. And we can see it in the world, how the world is slowing down right now, and it's healing. And at the same time, we're also going to heal. We're going to see things right side up. We're going to see the importance of loving one another. The importance, and when it comes within yourself, the importance of loving yourself and accepting who you are now. I will answer this question about relationships.
Yes.
Yes. Some relationships are going to be broken, and it's no longer serving our purposes. So, and it's going to be a sad time for some of us because of that. But for others, we are going to strengthen the relationships that we have with others. We're no longer going to be acting quite as much through our pain body, through the pain that we've been going through. We're going to see how we rely on others. We rely now on what we thought, the people we thought were not important anymore, that weren't important to us, are now becoming the most important. Even now, I'm going to put this also, I'm trying to go from the macrocosm to the microcosm. Now, look who we're appreciating the most. The grocery clerks, the ones who get paid the least. We're appreciating now those frontline, we're appreciating those people who are building things to make sure that our internet is still operating. You know, we never even thought about these people. We never gave them a second thought. About the nurses who have to go in the line of fighting this disease, fighting this virus. Nurses are overworked, underpaid, mostly. These people now have become our new top. Again, thank you, Daniel. It is the new leader. It is the new pyramid. The pyramid before was like this. Now we're going back to what really is important.
Rima asked a question here about relationships, how they become stronger. And I think what we spoke about at the beginning is that relationship with ourself that becomes stronger. I would love you to tell the story that you actually were self-isolated, and really maybe this can give the strength to a lot of people who think, I've been in the house since 2 weeks. Maybe this can give them another perspective if you say how you got to know yourself, how you get to know yourself more through what you did. I thought it was fascinating, and I think everybody else would think so.
Okay, I spend a lot of time in self-isolation. Okay, that picture that you had there, I just finished spending 8 months in self-isolation in Nova Scotia on the beach, in a cabin right on the ocean. So then I didn't have internet. Then I didn't even use my internet and things like that. I actually self-isolated for the 8 months. So and living here, I actually really enjoy being by myself and getting to know myself.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a really good person to be able to help people through this time.
Right.
And it's been like that most of my life. I've been trying to find places to be by myself, to self-isolate. I've done it many places in the Sinai, St. Catharines. I self-isolated there for a while. 2 years ago, I had finished a job that I was with, so the company got bought out. So I had a little time for myself. Now, emotionally, I really was in a turmoil. I didn't know where I was. My relationships weren't the best. So I was and I was starting to feel, my body was starting to feel anxious. And I knew it was time for me and I was feeling a lot of what I would call suffering. I was suffering in my mind about what's going on. I felt like I was completely out of control, that I had no control in my life. So what I did is I went into self-isolation. I found myself a little cabin on the ocean in Nova Scotia, Canada, and right on there. And I got rid of social media. And the only time I went out was to go get food. I had my own fire, so I had a really good relationship with the fire. It's because I know that there's a hole that beforehand, it was basically searching through meditations. From meditations, I was basically told to go to the wilderness. That is the real reason why I did it. I didn't really know what was going on, why I should, but I got that in Canada and I tried to follow it. Why to follow it? It's because it's the only way I believe I can get to know my soul, get to know who I really am. Everything else changes. Everything but that ground of being changes. So if I really get to know that ground of being, I found out that it really is just peace. It is that place where there is absolutely no way to suffer, because nothing can touch it, because it's not a space like every other space. It's a non-space space. And through that time, I started to get to know myself. I started to get to know myself, but not without a lot of tears. Let me tell you, there was a lot of tears. I cried for everything. I cried for the earth. I cried for my own suffering. I cried for everybody. I cried because of the politicians, believe it or not. There was so many reasons for it. And that's suffering. And I wanted just to put an end to that suffering. And it came to a point in my life where I realized that I've basically had enough of suffering. I was sick and tired of suffering. Sick and tired of it. It was enough. I realized I was putting myself through it, and it was time to give up on that suffering. So I decided I'm going to practice yoga, eat right, and meditate. And what did I find in there? I found myself. But it wasn't easy. Through those crying, I noticed how my mind and my heart were playing against each other. I knew that the mind would influence my suffering. And then the suffering would make my mind go into a tailspin. And during that time of learning that, I started realizing that I actually have a lot of love inside of me. That didn't come easy. I went through, let me give you a few moments right before actually it all clicked and came together. I was starting to go almost what we would call manic depressive. I would all of a sudden go into great feats of crying. And then after that was finished, I would laugh at myself for being so silly. And all of a sudden I'm laughing, and then I'm crying, and I'm laughing. And they actually kind of joined one another, the laughing and the crying. They both joined together. And at that moment, when they actually joined together, I found that Bardo place. I found it by myself. It's almost like the body, it's almost like a ball or a pinball starts rolling, and it found the hole, and it just dropped. And really what happened, I dropped out from the bottom. It was like, that is nothing. It wasn't that I managed to swim up. The bottom dropped out. It just, and it's that drop. And through that, I could actually start seeing clearly. And in that drop, let me just tell you how I felt at that drop. Pure peace. Pure peace. Nothing I really needed to add, nothing I could add, nothing I could subtract. The love I had and the bliss. And since that moment, believe it or not, I laugh at myself all the time whenever I get myself into some kind of dither. I just start laughing. You're taking yourself too seriously. We're here to enjoy, to experience this life. That's what I've learned. And from that experience, if you just keep it inside of you and isolate it, it'll rot. It'll rot. You can't. It has to be shared. So you have the experience and you share it with others. And then we, as a whole human species, we can grow. As a whole human understanding, we can grow. So some people think that this is selfishness, that I went away, responsibility. But your responsibility is first to yourself. You're first into being who you are, and then let's see what that wants to deliver. One of the other major things that I learned during that time is that I'm really the gardener of my mind, the gardener of my body, the gardener of my dreams. I'm the gardener. But I'm also the gardener, the garden itself. So what am I gardening? Myself. I'm letting all those gifts, or what would you say, all those bloom, all those forms that Plato had, I'm allowing them to bloom. That's the gift of this time. And it's not just me that's blooming. When we go into that Bardo, which is actually supposed to be everything. Everything is contained in that Bardo that can be contained. It's almost, if you want to go scientific about it, it's almost like we're the particle. And when you go into Bardo, you become the wave, which is the potential of everything. You're going into that wave of pure potentiality. We don't know. And because it's pure potentiality, it's infinite. And that infinite means infinite change, which means unknowing. If you have an infinite amount of possibilities, you cannot know. You cannot know. When we realize how much we actually know, is that, again, if we look at the pyramid, we only know the tip of the pyramid. And if you lower And the things we know we don't know, here's the other thing. The things we know we don't know is also just the tip of the pyramid. What we don't know that we don't know, now that is the great mystery that Bardo does provide. That is where that fun is about experiencing. We're going to go and experience. We're going to experience many things. I personally believe we're going to experience many things for eternity. There's that once this body is gone, we go on to a new reality. And then we go on to a new reality. Because that ground of being is that white sheet of paper. We just keep adding different things onto that white sheet of paper. Then we get rid of it, and then we add the new things onto that white sheet of paper. Just let me have a drink for a second.
Andreas, a quick question here for you. So the Bardo state you're talking about is actually that nothingness, that basically that, or the place in between, right? And then you're also talking about constant change and nothing is permanent. So are we actually always going back and forth, or are we, or is it good to stay there?
From science, when we're looking at it, it looks like from the quantum field onto the particles is what we're doing all the time is we're actually flipping all the time, and it's just super fast. So this is kind of, according to the science, that's more or less what our reality is that it shifts between both. And it depends on our observation and how we get entrenched into whatever it is. So I personally, how I felt it was like, it's nothingness, but everything at the same time. It's like a dense nothingness that holds everything. That holds everything. It's almost like I am nothing, and by being nothing is like you become everything. And that is the samadhi. Now that's what the monks are trying to do. They're actually trying to, like I say, they're trying to get liberation. They're trying to get outside and just live on the white sheet and be outside of this wheel of change. But many of them do not go outside of this change. Many of them decide that they will not go away, and they become Buddhavistas, which is basically somebody who has seen how to get out, but they have decided, no, I am not going out. I'm going to play this game in this world to relieve the suffering of others. And I can never totally get out, which is a realization because everything is connected, until everybody gets out as well. Until everybody can be established in the one base of reality. Not that we can't enjoy it. And from there, life becomes a magical journey. What do I know about? So how do we get into here? Now, let's speak of how do we get into here? We know what it is not. So according to a lot of spiritual traditions, it's not a process of adding, it's a process of subtraction. It's a process of getting rid of what you're not that you've added so that you can actually see. So that you can actually see through your eyes what actually is, not what you want it to be. And the great gift of this is that each moment becomes a new adventure. Each moment releases that fear. And that is what it takes a long time. The monks, like they meditated their whole lives so that they don't fear that moment of death. So that they remember right away, oh, this is just another change. So that they can find the eternal, the big Bardo, and drop through that wheel of change. Now, change is, as I said before, it is so holding on to this beingness. I am rich. Whatever. I am rich. Great. It's great to be, but this is something that you're being. That's an action. It's not that you're enjoying being rich. I am poor. Okay, you're enjoying being, but you're really not poor. That's just an illusion that through semantics you decided that this is what poor is. Poor is not having money, but we all know not having money or not having a house or not having your car or not having food. This is what we consider it, and then we say, but really, is that really what it means to be rich? What does it mean to be rich? To me, to be rich is to be totally at peace with what happens at the moment. Yeah.
Rima's saying here one can be poor in the heart.
Yes. Yes, one can be. Yes, one can be poor in the heart, but that's only because they're not really abiding in the heart. It's too much things in between, too much stuff. Too much stuff is blocking you from that heart. That heart is open, loving, giving, compassionate. Every one of us, even the vilest criminal that we can think of, have that in their heart. It's just covered up. It's not something that we don't have. It's not a defect. It's blinded. And what blinds us better than anything? Suffering. Suffering blinds us. We hurt each other because we are hurt. Our pain that we have in us, we're just giving. We can only give what we are. You can't give what you're not. What you're not. And if what you're seeing in yourself is struggle, is trying to create a future, trying to accumulate things. Or here's the other part that I've really neglected, and that's our habits. That is our habits of what we do. This also blocks who we are, because we're no longer going from the ground of being. We're using the program of suffering to move. We're using that program of the poisons. The Buddhists call these the poisons. This desire, for instance, is a poison. But let me just give a caveat in there. The poisons are also, in small doses, medicine. So I'm not trying to say, oh, we have to be saints of any kind. No, but we have to realize that these poisons affect our eyes so that we can't see. As soon as we get into a battle with somebody, we can't see any of these. We can't see the truth. I'm sorry I didn't finish reading that. Love to have read it. And what are these poisons besides greed, sloth? We call them the seven. In the West, we call it the 7 deadly sins. Not that they're. But what does it kill? It kills our ability to see within ourselves. And this coronavirus going in is doing exactly that. You're going to see a lot of change in policies in the government. They're going to point the finger and see who is responsible. Where's the responsibility lies? You're going to see a lot of people who have lost everything. I mean, everything that they had, that they're going to try and see what they can build. Yes, it's going to be change. Our whole world is not going to be the same as it was before. That is the gift of Bardo. The gift of Bardo is exactly transformation and change. I wish I could hope and tell you that it's going to be for the positive. Definitely there's going to be positive. And yes, we can believe in the process of life teaching us. Because that's really what we're saying, is that life becomes our guru. Life becomes our teacher. The life is what is going to teach us through the circumstances that we're going through, if we pay attention and open up our hearts, open up our minds. There's a lot of change that's going to happen in how we do our work, how we're going to take care of the homeless, how we're going to take care of our vulnerable citizens. These are discussions that are going to go through. But unfortunately, also, there's some people who are going to use this to their advantage. And how can I benefit from this? Through greed, through their own greed, because they never managed to get the change. They never managed to open up. So in a way, change is going to be positive. It's going to restrict a lot of things that we do. We're not going to be able to move around the same way as we did before. A lot of things are going to disappear. A lot of our friends that we had are going to disappear because they were based on a common shared value that we just, at one point we shared it and we just don't share it anymore. Those are going to fall off. Energy crisis that's going on with flying from here to there. Watch how air travel goes. Watch how we travel from one another. Watch how we don't take people for granted anymore. Watch how we're happy, actually, that we don't have to visit some of the negativities anymore within ourselves and within our friends. Within the family, look at some of the quarantine who we're stuck with. Some of us are quarantined with people that are not very beneficial to us. And we finally realize that this person was either positively making us resilient to whatever's going on, so helping us with resilience, or on the other hand, in saying, you know what, you also have to take responsibility. I'm going to take responsibility for my own personal emotional health, my own personal physical health, and my mental health and my growth. I'm going to take responsibility for this, and you know what, you have to do the same. I can no longer just carry you. And these are things that are going to happen everywhere. So there's a new sense of where we're going to be after this.
Yeah. Andreas, can you tell everybody what are the techniques, or what would you suggest if someone wants to find that Bardo? If someone wants, you were talking about change, and you said that change is needed to find it, and you moved a lot in your life to change. You traveled a lot too. Is that also part of it? Is it like if we change a lot, if we move a lot, can we find that Bardo easier?
For me, I found it easier through change because part of the characteristic of Bardo is change. A lot of my searching has been, a lot of my self-seeking has been done through travel. That's also the change, and I renew myself every time. So it allowed me the adaptability to change. That's something through my background, through different cultures, and moving a lot and traveling a lot, and a little and suffering as well, until I realized I don't need to suffer anymore. So I learned. So through a lot of my changes, I understood how impermanent everything was. So I had to hold on to something that wasn't changing. So I think that's where it came to me. That's how I found it. There's other ways also of finding it, is by going through other aspects of what it is, what Bardo is. Bardo is, and by knowing what Bardo is not. So I think it's almost like getting to know what your ground of your being is, and giving yourself the space to be able to let it come out, and not to strangle it with all the cares, not to strangle it with all our false beliefs, not to strangle it by the fear of survival. And I just went through it more or less through the change. That's one of the aspects of it that I managed to hang on to the most. Now for this being, it's more, again, not doing anything, allowing yourself to feel. This is really about allowing what is to be. It's a really simple, it's a really simple practice. It's just allowing. I think it's time for us to go through a little bit of finding this ground, if we can, together here. Okay, so let's just, again, close our eyes. Breathe in into your heart. Breathe out peace. Breathe in saying, I am. Hold it. I am peace. Now, a thought comes into your mind, say thank you to that thought. Breathe in that thought. Feel that thought all in your body. Feel where that thought wants to reside. Where does it want to hang out? As you release it, release peace. Bring in that thought, whatever that thought was. Now, hopefully, we have changed it to an emotion. And tell that emotion, thank you for telling me. Breathe out peace. Just allow whatever comes up. There is no wrong. Everything is right. Realize that this moment itself is perfect. It's perfectly pure in itself. You can't add anything to it. Breathe in, breathe out peace. We're not even adding peace. We're just telling it, we're just going to where it is. We're just joining with the peace that's within us and recognizing it. So find it in the breath. Breathe in peace. And let go of what isn't. Everything that isn't, let go. Whatever comes into your mind, realize that it can't really bother you right now. Right now, it really is irrelevant. It's a show that right now you wish not to pay attention to. The show of life. Right now you're wishing to pay attention to I am and letting go of peace. I am. Now the mind may want to do things. The body may get restless. It wants to do things. That's just habit. It's not really. It's habit. It's what your mind is so used to. It doesn't know how to relax. It doesn't know how to rest. There's pure rest. And with this, you will notice lightness of being. The more you let go of, the lighter you feel. And the lighter you feel, the more at peace you feel. So breathe in. Breathe in this life. I am life. Breathe out, I am peace. You don't have to try to make peace come. If you're not feeling, just let go. Say, I'm not feeling peace. Okay, let go that I am not feeling peace. Let go that I'm not doing it right. You're doing it right. It comes out by itself. It's natural. It's the natural being of who you are. There is no struggle. You don't have to grow spiritually through all your suffering. Personal growth is who you are. Personal change is who you are from one aspect to another. Breathe in. Breathe in all the way into your belly. Breathe out. Let's go into that feeling. If you have a feeling, that seems to be blocking it, let's go into that feeling. Let's see that feeling. Let's look at that feeling. What's it sitting on? What's propping it up? Most likely what's propping it up is your mind telling it. It's your body remembering some trauma. If it wants to come up, fine, let it. That's also peace. When it comes out and it's a release, let go. There's nothing you need to hold on to right now. Nothing. Breathe in. Look at your breath. Breathe out. Letting go. Breathe in peace. Peace is in the breath itself. You don't have to create it. It is in the breath itself. Look at it in the breath. Find it in the breath. And if you don't find it, release what you're finding. It'll come out. It's who we are. And you'll notice right now how you're feeling in your body right now. You are in the body, but you're not your body. Feel how your thoughts are coming in. Your thoughts have relaxed. They're coming more easily. These are the blessings of not doing, of being. And that's what this coronavirus is offering us: time for being, time for healing, time for peace, and time for love. Just a thought came to me while I was in this relaxed state, that this is also, for you hypnotherapists, can be a great tool, this Bardo concept. Just think of it as actually most of the meditation and the peace that we get, that we are putting ourselves through, is so that we can change our thinking patterns. And we're thinking it through repetitions, through changing beliefs, through our actions. But I invite you that this way here is a very quick way also, because it is change. This kind of change can be done instantaneously. Once you realize that I just don't have to suffer. I don't have to. I can let it go. It's like in an instant. It's almost like that tunnel. It's like a tunnel that'll take you through to the other side. But you got to realize the other side is, again, just another dream. And for you meditators, I would like to add that practice meditators will see two things in their mind. We end up having the witness, which I tried to let you see. The witness is that part of your being that observes. It's the observer. It's the part of the being that sees everything that's going on, and it's just observing. That is also a state. And but not trying to think, just allowing. Now the thoughts that come up, you will notice they're almost like daydreams. They will grab you. And that's also another state. Now, in between that observer and those thoughts, how do you find the Bardo in between that? That is the part that meditation will end up seeing it. That is the point where you recognize, where you fall into that dream. Because really, when you're going into a thought, you'll see it's a dream. That your mind is starting to play a program. And when you start seeing it, and you recognize it, that's all of a sudden, that's where you will find the crack. That's where you'll find that place in between, because the witness is great. It's going to calm you down. It's going to allow that love to come out. But for that real change, it's allowing that thought to come. We don't just be the witness and we try to push all thoughts away. We're not trying to do that. We want embraced life. We want to bring everything in. So while it's coming, recognizing it as it comes, just as you're starting to dream, and that you'll find the drop off point. Don't feel disappointed if you don't find that spot right away. What we're doing is, through the meditation of watching our breath, we're just allowing it to come. We're allowing that place to come up, and hopefully it actually grabs you. It grabs you and pulls you under. It's almost like a tunnel through that. You are neither this nor that. I am not my emotions, and I am not my head. I am not my thoughts, and I'm not even the witness. I'm not even this body, and that's the illusion that we're trying to break. That they were trying to break. The Buddhists, the Tibetan monks were trying to break, so that they can fall in that place of leaving the wheel even before death. And that's the practice. It's the practice of dying before you die, so you don't have to die.
Wonderful way of putting it, Andreas. Thank you so much, and thank you for that lovely meditation. I felt really peaceful. I don't know what others felt, but you could share it if you want to. It was really a very peaceful state, very nice meditation. Thank you so much, and thank you for a very inspiring talk, and very interesting, fascinating, things to think about, things to ponder now that we have the time. So I really want to thank you from my heart for being with us today, for sharing your experience, for sharing what you did and how you got to it, and helping maybe through the recording have so many other people find that space, find that Bardo. So
well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed sharing this with everybody. This is what's on my mind and what's on my heart, and I'm seeing what everybody is going through, and I'm just interacting with life. And I hope I interacted with your lives as well. Thank you.